this world.
Nani? Don't know where the hell that came from. Alright, so some of you may know this, and some of you may not. I freaking hate weeb stuff. How much do I hate it, you ask? With that said, I'd be lying if there wasn't the occasional anime or something along those lines that I enjoy. I'm just a man of very specific tastes. Same goes with my comics, video games, food, alcohol, and so forth. When it comes to anything from Japan, it's going to be rare that what I'm taking in is going to be something that doesn't involve a more mature bend on things, on top of having a few gallons of blood alongside it. Even then, if the writing isn't solid or entertaining enough, I'll probably end up tossing it faster than I pour a subpar Merlot down the drain of my sink. Yes, I'm very picky. Needless to say, it's a rare thing when I find myself in a position where I enjoy some anime or manga enough to stick with it. Keep in mind that prior to this video, there were only 2 manga that I enjoyed, Devilman and Berserk. Well, now I'm at 3 total. The story of how I came along to this one is pretty interesting though. So, I imagine both by the title of the video and by the way that I'm talking, you can tell that I'm about to discuss Battle Angel Alita, which is a story I had a passing knowledge of for a good while now. Now, I can't really say that I was that interested in the concept, though, until I saw the trailer for the upcoming film by Robert Rodriguez based on it. Like everyone else, I was a bit creeped out by the way that they're trying to imitate the anime art style with CG. This is an abysmal idea, by the way. Any good storytelling within this is probably going to go out the window, because people are going to be creeped out by Alita's eyes here. I'll talk a bit more about this film later, so let's put that thought on the back burner and keep it on simmer. Dear God, I need to stop writing these scripts when I'm hungry. Anyway, people in the comments section on both YouTube and Reddit said that the book itself was quite great, and they were praying to God that it'll translate properly to the silver screen. Some were skeptical about the rating, though. PG-13 for a manga that's apparently super violent? So, let's just say my interest is piqued by that, because there's a lot of factors there. If there's a super violent manga out there with solid writing, sign me up. Not to mention, the original book was free with my Comixology Unlimited subscription, so it's not like I had any difficulty reading it. What I found was something I wasn't expecting. So, there have been a couple of points that I have made in the past about comic books that I need to rehash because this book does both of them. First, there's a benefit to a writer who also is the artist of a comic book, whether it be comics here in the West or manga in the East. The main benefit is that a writer being the artist of that book means that the story has a bit more cohesiveness to it. Unless you as a writer are an ace at being descriptive in regards to action and setting to your artist, it's not always easy to communicate what you want. You can see the synchronicity in manga like Berserk and Devilman, but also in a comic book like Batman White Knight. By the way, I owe Sean Gordon Murphy an apology when it comes to that particular book. My video called Social Justice Joker was very fucking wrong. Anyway, second point that I made that this book fits to a T is something I said on a podcast recently. When I was asked by a member of the audience during our Q&A section in regards to how to make it plausible for a woman to beat a man in melee combat, I put it very simply. You either need to make her super skilled at combat, more so than her opponent, or give her superpowers. Battle Angel Alita does both. Sorry to break it to you ladies, but when it comes to a fist fight, a man is going to run roughshod over a woman. It's a biological reality. We men have stronger bones, muscles, and so forth. When everything is equal, the bigger guy usually wins, and men have that in the bag. Now, since Alita is a cyborg, you can give her whatever superhuman abilities you want, because fiction isn't defined by the laws of nature. Thus, any concept of realism goes out the window. Well, unless you're being purposely dense. Needless to say, if you're not being purposely dense, Alita's waif fu doesn't really come across as too cheesy or corny. It makes sense. She's basically a superhuman robot. As for the story itself, it starts simply enough. Imagine a world where cybernetics are ridiculously commonplace. As in, most people you meet have some sort of a bionic limb, or most of their body is robotic, that the only thing about them that might be actually human is their brain. Well, a gifted cybernetic doctor named Ito stumbles across a cyborg girl who is damaged and in some sort of suspended animation. Finding her in a junkyard, he takes her home and repairs her, and finds out an interesting secret. That even though she's an amnesiac, she's an incredibly skilled hand-to-hand expert, to the point that for most of the story through the original series and its sequel Last Order, she has to have a specialized body for combat, or else she's going to tear herself apart. After the first arc, what you find is a cyberpunk romp that starts in a desolate place called the Junkyard, goes into space for probably one of the most entertaining fighting tournament stories I've seen since the original Dragon Ball, and then to Mars for the currently ongoing Mars Chronicle, which is both a prequel to the original and a sequel to Last Order at the same time. As for the art, it's pretty obvious to most people that I prefer a much more Western-influenced style, and I would think that Alita follows that line. There's quite a bit of detail put into the pages, it follows a lot of Western cyberpunk influence, and so on and so forth. Though I will say that the original Alita book does still follow some of the, traditional Japanese tropes in regards to illustration. But a good chunk of them do get thrown out when Last Order comes around. With Last Order, characters like Alita don't end up looking as exaggerated when it comes to their eyes and such. On top of that, the book's fight scenes have a great sense of motion to them. And that's one thing that I honestly wish more Western comic book artists would learn from artists like Yukito Kishiro on this book, or Go Nagai in Devilman, or Kentaro Miura in Berserk. You don't want your action sequences to seem like a bunch of stills. They have to have a sense of motion to them, or else it just feels like a slideshow. A sense of motion gives art a vibrancy that I honestly think is necessary when it comes to the art form. Now, let's go back to our discussion when it comes to the film for the last part of this video. What bugs me about it is making Alita seem like something out of the uncanny valley. I get wanting to translate the art style from the manga, but then why not just make it an animated film? That way you could translate the feeling of a world where it seems like it resides in the uncanny valley permanently much better. Not to mention, it just feels like the CG work is not there. It's less of Thanos and Infinity War quality and closer to the fight scenes at the end of Black Panther. And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's not good, trust me. Well, the CG. The film's great, the CG's just not there. It makes me wonder if the budget isn't there or what, but it's got a $200 million budget behind it, to my recollection, so I can't see why there isn't more effort put in. Not to mention trying to take an R-rated, for better or worse, manga and turn it into a PG-13 movie just seems like they're going to gut the whole thing and it's not going to come across very well. I hate to say it, given that Robert Rodriguez and James Cameron have made some of my favorite films, but I honestly have no faith in the movie adaptation at all. I want it to be good, but my expectations are set pretty low. Even with that said, I don't really think that I could recommend the manga itself nearly enough. And I'm surprised to say that. You gotta keep in mind, though, you're in for a long read. There's 9 volumes of Battle Angel Alita and 19 volumes of Last Order. Plus the third part, Mars Chronicle, is ongoing as well. So if you're looking for a series to read for a while, this would be one to start in on. On top of that, for me, as somebody who barely ever reads this sort of stuff, it's very refreshing to see a story that treats people as people. And that's one thing I should mention about the writing in general, is that it has heart to it. And I'll say one thing. When you have dark stories with a lot of dark environments, but your story has a lot of heart and your characters have a lot of love put into them, it really allows all those good things about that character to shine that much brighter. I could not recommend Battle Angel Alita, the entire series, enough, that is for certain. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. My name is Micah Curtis, and welcome to my crusade, Dave's Vault.